Welcome to the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. I'm your host, Jacob Cooper, best-selling author of Life After Breath and the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. For those of you who are new to my podcast, we thank you for joining us. Please make sure you hit that bell notification as well as consider subscribing to have more weekly interviews coming your way here on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. Today's guest on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder is renowned healer Pat Longo. Pat is an international healer, intuitive, and she's helped so many psychics and mediums discover their own gifts of intuition and mediumship. And her name is a gold standard within certainly the healing and New Age community. So without further ado, we bring on Pat Longo here on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder.
Pat Longo, thank you so much for being here as an honored guest on the Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. It's so good to see you.
It is so good to be here. I'm so excited that we finally connected. I know we've tried and we've tried and we've tried, and there have been obstacles, but finally, we're here.
Yeah, and I know a couple years ago, as a guest on your podcast, so it's just great, to have you here, today on mine. I know you've meant so much to my life and countless other, healers and seekers. And, to me, you're just the godmother of healers in Long Island and beyond. And, your name is just a gold standard. I've been in conferences and like someone asked me where I'm from, I say Long Island, and you're like the first name that comes up. And
Oh, for
then I'll
heaven's
say
sake.
Pat Longo, and someone else says, "Oh my God, Pat Longo?" And it's just, normally, there's things that we can say one way or another about a person, but for you, it's just, once your name is thrown out there, people light up. And I think that's really a reference to um, the healer that you are and the impact that you have and how genuine your mission is. But for those of my viewers, who may be living under a rock at this time, haven't heard Pat Longo, maybe they're, newcomers, to some of the healing works and
Mhm.
spirituality. Can you tell us a little bit about, your current work, and maybe we'll get into how it all began, the genesis of Pat
Okay.
Longo and the healer that we see today?
Okay. Well, you're going to make my head get bigger and bigger and bigger. But I don't think of myself that way, but everybody
Right,
else seems to. So sooner or later, it's going to sink in.
right.
We'll accept it. But you gave an intro. I did a speech at the Hilton on Sunday. A old student of mine came in from Nevada, and she put together a 3-day workshop. And she asked me if I would do a closing, do a healing for the group. And after we talked for a few minutes, then I was doing 2 hours. So I spoke for 2 hours. So then I did the healing, but she introduced me very much like you, and she carried on about all the people on Long Island and all that kind of stuff. And I laugh because people do come back and say just what you said, that people, you say my name, no, for years, but I
Right.
don't feel like that person. So I'm still going to stay the humble person and kind of put that over here for a while. Okay, so my journey as a healer started a little bit after my mom was diagnosed with inoperable breast and bone cancer. And that was in 1994, I believe. She was 69 years old at the time. And she had had it probably for 5 years or more and never told anybody, didn't see a doctor, did
Wow.
nothing, and washed it with holy water. Pretty much that's what she did. And I'm sure it helped. She was still there 5 years later when the diagnosis came in. They didn't give her a very good prognosis. It was, like, you will die from, you're already in the ribs, skull, pelvis, breast areas. And so it was a little devastating for all of us. And then I had an appointment with a psychic 6 months prior. And once they said, we can't operate on you, it's already too far. I had this appointment, and the man said to me immediately, you're worried about a woman above you and a male below you. My son was having some girlfriend issues, so it was something on my mind, but it was no big deal. But my mother was another story, and he told me every spot that she had the cancer. He said it straight up, And then he said, and I think they missed some pinpricks in the liver. So he handed me a card and he said, I remember it said the breath of healing on it. And then the girl's name was Anne. And he said, this is a friend of mine who's had some success with cancer. So I said, oh, what does she have to lose? So I called the woman first just to make sure she wasn't way out there. And I have to remember going back 30 years, people really looked at me like when I opened my door, they'd expect me to have horns, a tail, and wave dead chickens. But here I am, just a little old grandma. So the next thing that happened was I called my mom. I love the woman. She was lovely. I called my mom, said, do you trust me? She said, yes. And we went for a long ride out to Mattatuck towards the end of the island. And it was a big farmhouse, like a barn house. And she was like a flower child. I mean, that's how she dressed. That's what she looked like to me. Long flowy hair and a long flowy skirt and bare feet. And I wasn't part of the room. I wasn't in there. She put me in front of Oprah. I watched Oprah that afternoon and she went upstairs with my mom. And then when we were leaving, she came running out in her bare feet and it was all cobblestones and I'm backing out of the driveway. I opened the window and she said to my mother, do you pray to the Blessed Mother? My mother said, every day. And she said, well, she was there in the room and I was just so overwhelmed by it. So we left to go home and my mother looked at me and said, why not me? And I never thought I would hear that from her because of course everyone was in a panic when this all happened. And she said, why not me? And she said the woman asked her, what's eating you up inside? And that was the key question. And that's something that I use now with all my clients that have illnesses, because illness comes from emotional traumas and upset. And there was something that was bothering my mother for like 20 years, and she never talked about it. And that day, everything opened up and she went into immediate remission. Now, she did not pass for 15 years. She was 84. She did not pass from cancer and she didn't have any issues with cancer throughout that time, 15 years. Wow. She took care of my dad and we expected my mother to go first, but my dad did. And then my mom was so despondent after he passed, after 60 plus years of marriage. And I saw a quick decline. So she died the following year. And, but I learned a lot. And during the course of those 15 years, she looked at me and she said, excuse me, I got this so you could do what you do. And she believed that. She said, I got this so that you could, because it led me into, well, let's just say down a path. I started looking into what is this? What is healing? How did this happen? And I found myself, and I'm going to keep clearing my throat for a few minutes. I apologize. I found you're the first person I've spoken to today. So you have my morning.
Yeah.
And I found myself in a class that I was also led to synchronistically. One thing would happen, a person would place my path, a newspaper that talked of James Van Praagh coming into town and doing a big reading out in a hotel out east. And I had to call the number and that led me to a teacher and I met her in the ladies' room of the hotel. It was just bizarre, everything that happened. So I ended up in her class and her name was Holly Chalnick and she's since passed. And Holly was an art teacher and she held these metaphysical classes. She channeled spirit, she channeled Jesus, she channeled Mary, and yet she was Jewish and it wasn't something that she was all that familiar with, but that's how it came into her. And so I landed in the class and we did meditation. So that was the first time in my life that I did any kind of meditation. And the consistencies were, we would smudge each other when we came in. We were taught how to use white sage and how to clear our energy. We picked an angel card every week and she would read what it meant and then we'd talk about it, and meditation. So 3 weeks in, my hands started to burn. I didn't know why. I didn't know what. I didn't know it had anything to do with class. I wasn't in class. I was home and I said to my husband, "What is wrong with me? I can't cool my hands down. Is this menopause?" And oh, like I thought it was hot flashes, not hot hands, but my hands were so hot. They were uncomfortably hot. Following week in class, it was a rainy Monday morning, and there was the teacher was off to the left, say, I'm looking at you from an angle.
Right.
And there was a woman in my peripheral vision who was on a folding chair, and I was on a comfy couch. So she's on the chair and she's twisting and turning and recrossing, and she seemed to be very uncomfortable, but it was distracting, I should say. And Holly must have noticed it and asked me if I would move over on the couch and let this woman squeeze in. So we were like cheek to cheek. So she said to me, "Pat, would you put your hand on her leg?" I thought, I mean, the look I gave her, you have to be out of your mind. Why would I do a thing like that? I didn't know why. She didn't explain. And then she said, "No, Pat, just put your hand on her leg." Okay, I don't even know her name to this day. Put my hand on the woman's leg, very uncomfortably, I'll say. And I didn't do anything because I didn't know I was supposed to. 2, maybe 3 minutes later, all her pain was gone. And she had been in a car accident years ago. So a rainy Monday morning, and she had a lot of soft tissue damage and joint issues. She was aching. And then it just went away. So I left that class spinning. I didn't know what happened, why it happened, why me. Those were my questions. I don't even know how I got home. That's the truth, because I was totally in my head. I went to the library. I didn't even go home. I went straight to the Hicksville Library, which is where I was at the time. And I couldn't find, there was no New Age section at that point in time. And I couldn't find anything that was spiritual healing, hands-on healing, nothing. So I ended up going to a bookstore the next day in the Broadway Mall. And I found a book that was called Healing Hands. Now, I gave it away years ago. I loaned it to someone and it didn't come back, like many books that you loan out.
I know.
But I also know whoever's supposed to have it is supposed to have it. And believe it or not, a nurse gave me a new copy, probably within the last 2 years. She was an old student from 20 years ago.
Wow.
And she got in touch with me and said, "Oh, could we have lunch?" And she came into town, and then she said, "I think I'm becoming a healer." And so we started to talk, and I said, "There's this book. I could tell you the color of it. I can't tell you the author." She found it and she sent one to me. So I have it back, and I have since reread it, and it was probably the best book I could have read. It's the first thing I read as a healer. And it just explained things to me, even about exchange. It was amazing. So I have it on my homework. I send it out to everybody along with 12 other books, and all kinds of recommendations of people to read this, to read that. I have near-death experience books. Your book's on there. And I have a little bit about past lives, a little bit about manifesting, a little bit about mediumship, healing, near death, past. It's all books that I feel people can learn from.
You're an
Because
avid reader is one thing I know about you. You definitely have read
yes,
encyclopedia of these books.
I
Yeah.
have, and I have a few new ones I just added. People send them to me in the mail. And I even got a bunch of children's books the other day from a client who works with these amazing horses. They're called Gypsy Vanna. They're almost, I thought they were like Clydesdales because they have the big feet, but they call them feathers. It's all this hair. Beautiful, but she uses them to help children. And I spoke to her and she thought, well, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? I said, can you count how many children you've actually helped? And not to mention with your 3 books, how many children? She realized no. And I said, you've been doing it all along. You've been doing it. People heal in many different ways. It doesn't have to be with their hands. You heal with what you do, even in your profession, besides the other part of you, the spiritual part. Mediums are healers. They heal with their words, and they heal the other side and this side at the same time. People who, let's say the listeners in the world, people who listen to other people's problems. And of course, that's part of your profession as well and mine. But the listeners, you're helping just by listening, by letting someone vent and talk about their problems, their situation. And then, of course, your job and my job is to lead them in a better direction. The other people are facilitators. They're healing people by sending them to the right places, just based on their experience. You know, maybe you have a medical issue and or you used to, and somebody comes to you and you're able to send them. I've sent people to many of my doctors over the past to aid and help them, because all of a sudden the thought comes into my head. And this is how I channel. I don't channel people on the other side. I channel storylines all day long, all day long. So, you know, like when a book pops into my head when I'm sitting with someone, I immediately go, this is the book you need to read. Or an automatic writing, which is channeling from spirit, comes to me, and I'll run and I'll get the writing and I'll read that writing, and it's exactly what that person needed to hear. I had so many medical issues as a child, and even the healing healed me. All right. When I started healing people, the energy comes through the top of my head, and I have these big archangels that work with me according to people who do see. They tell me, I said, I don't care. I know I'm not by myself. I know I'm not doing it. I'm just the channel. I'm the vehicle of this. I do direct. That I do. That's the part I play. I'm kind of like the director, but the energy comes from above and it comes in through the top of my head and it comes out my hands and it goes into the head of a client that's sitting in front of me. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm working in 45 countries now. It makes no difference. I'm on Zoom. It's just like you're sitting right in front of me, like now. Okay. So that's what I do. I close my eyes and the person is right in front of me and I just do my job. And it's been, thank you, God, knock on wood, very successful all these years of helping people. I'm still at it 30 years later. So, and I don't plan on going anywhere for a long time. I'm 74, I'll be 75 in December. And I probably have another good 20 years at this. I'm planning ahead. I think I had a talk yesterday with Spirit and said, maybe I'll do 100. I could do 100. If I'm healthy, I'll do 100. I'll still have wisdom to impart. But that's kind of like a layout of what happened. And then I began to touch people. I was practicing. Just practicing. Nobody knew what I was doing. It was just family members. Put my hand on somebody and I would get rid of their pain, but I would get it. So that's how it started. First two of my siblings that I kind of snuck up on with a stiff neck and a migraine headache, I went home with. So I had a chat with God and I said, look, I surrender. I am all open to this. I want to serve, but I can't walk around with people's pain. So shortly thereafter, I started putting together a form of protection. And I used part of what my teacher taught me. That's how I began. And then I added to it. And once I added to it, I no longer took on people's pain. And then my body, all the things that were wrong with me, just went away. And when I tell you I was seeing a rheumatologist for psoriatic arthritis, and my x-rays were bone on bone, and they wanted me to take this horrible medicine and another medicine to keep that medicine from eating a hole in my stomach lining. They even gave me a video to watch, you know, this is what it's going to do. So you got to, so I said, no, I can't do that. And the healing began. And next thing you know, I had no more pain. It was gone, just gone. Now, I thought I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I was 50 because it was that painful at 35. So it was gone. I couldn't sleep at night. It was so bad in my hip, my shoulder, my elbow, my ankle, is everything on the right side of my body. I had asthma. I had autoimmune diseases from the time I was 7. eczema, psoriasis, allergies, hives, giant hives, big hives, asthma, irritable bowel, sinusitis, pneumonias, one after the next. And anything I got big. All right. If I got scarlet fever, I got pneumonia with it. If I had an allergy to medications, penicillin, sulfa, my tongue would get these giant sores all over my tongue. I couldn't eat, I couldn't swallow. It was always something. It was like double all the time. And everything, everything I had just disappeared, And I haven't had it since. Now I've had some other issues, and I'm going to say that. I feel like my journey as a healer started when I contracted to come back into this life, that I agreed to it, and that I was learning by example. I was made to feel all those things, to have all those autoimmune situations so that I could help diagnose them when I was doing healing. So it was, again, I called myself a guinea pig, but actually I was learning. And I think we all learn every day by our experiences. Certainly, look what you're doing based on the experience you had. All right. So all of this it's almost like it's all been written. Well, it has been, really. We're kind of like players on a stage, and it's all been written. And people should not worry about the future that doesn't exist yet. Because if you and I are lucky enough to wake up tomorrow, then we have a future for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. And worrying about the past just takes people down a rabbit hole. So it's about living in joy and happiness. And I mean, you know a lot more about me than anybody that's listening, but I have 5 children and 17 grandchildren. And I think we're at a halt for now. I think we're at a halt. I think we've completed that cycle. And next would probably be great grands. And we're not ready for that yet either, but it's possible. And I look forward to the day. But I have a very happy life. And I lost my husband, and you know that as well, in 12 years ago, in 2012. And, I miss him every day, but I also know he's with me every day. And I'm blessed to be in the field that I'm in, because I talk to mediums every day of my life, and my husband's always standing behind me, or he's sending me notes. I get a text message from a medium. I get a FedEx envelope from Arizona from my husband. Everybody wants to talk, but he wants to talk to me all the time. So he finds a million different ways to do it. I even give him out as an assignment sometimes to my students. I said, Vinny, he is just a great person. He'll help you open up with your abilities. And they come back and they'll tell me, boy, your husband has a phenomenal laugh. And then I never tell anybody that, but he has an infectious laugh. So when they hear it and they see him and he helps them and he calms them, he helps. He's like my tag team on the other side.
Wow.
I have seen him once. I have seen him. And I'm going to explain that, because I think for your listeners, this is important.
We love this kind of stuff, my audience. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was a few months after he passed. And I don't know exactly when. I just know it was cold out. And he passed in August. I'm always hot as a healer, and I do have a fan on 24/7 on my face, always.
Ditto. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so I got up to go to the bathroom. It's middle of the night. I got back in bed. I hit the alarm to see what time it was. 2:43 a.m. So I threw the covers on, and I know the air conditioner was in the window, and I didn't have it on. So again, I know it was cool weather. I hear footsteps coming up my stairs. Now, I was living alone, sleeping on the second floor in the back of the house. It was like an L shape. And I was in the back L, the bottom of the L. And I didn't think twice about it, because I have 3 sons, adult sons, that work nights in the town I was living in. And every now and then they felt they needed to sleep a little bit before they got back in the car.
Right.
So they would crash on my couch or in the guest room. Didn't even give it a thought. Could have been any one of them. But they were noisy. It were like heavy men's footsteps coming up my stairs, and it's carpeted besides which. So I'm hearing this. And in my head, my mind's going, I'm like, don't they realize it's 2:45 in the morning? I could be sleeping, but I wasn't. So now the footsteps start to come my way. Now there's a bathroom right outside my bedroom. And again, in my head, I'm saying, well, why didn't they go downstairs? They don't know I'm awake. I'm a light sleeper. They're clumping around the house. And I wasn't concerned. I was getting annoyed. So now the footsteps do not go into the bathroom. They go from the carpet to the wood floor.
Hmm.
Now I think it's a home invasion. I know my boys would never walk into my room without saying, hey, Ma, you up? Or knocking on the door.
Right.
Usually they know I'm a light sleeper. They give me a call and say, I'm going to crash on the couch. I would go right back to sleep. So now I'm looking. Now I'm on my left side. My back is to the door. And I'm trying to see, what do I have to defend myself? And my heart's pounding, needless to say. I don't have anything. I'm in a full motion waterbed. I'm 4'10". Do you know what it takes for me to get out of that bed? It's 2 bounces at least, all right? So now I know I'm not going anywhere in a hurry. The air conditioner's in the window. The lamp is plugged in behind the waterbed. And I've got a phone that weighs about 5 ounces. I'm
This
like,
is like next level, from psychic self-defense stuff. Yeah.
seriously. And so I'm not a fear person.
Right.
But now I'm vulnerable. So I grabbed my comforter like this and I pulled it in really tight. And I just gave a one eyeball over my shoulder. And there was my husband standing at the foot
Wow.
of the bed in a red t-shirt that he got from Father's Day for my daughter. And as quickly as I saw him, he disappeared. But now I'm completely relaxed and calm. Somebody else might not be, but it was much better to have someone in spirit than it was to have someone in the flesh that was coming to harm me. So I was calm, and he continued to come around to the side, my side of the bed, probably maybe 10, 15 seconds. And then his footsteps went back around. I heard the covers come up and he got in the bed. And I rolled over and there was a physical presence. I actually put my arm over that physical presence and it dissipated in about 15 minutes. It just kind of, and I fell asleep as it just kind of like that. And he came back to visit me many times, not like that though. That was the only time I actually physically heard and saw him. The rest of the times were always in the middle of the night. Most people know, anyone on this journey knows that we call it the witching hours, somewhere in the middle of the night. It's easier for spirit to talk or to come in and be known.
Something about that 3 a.m. time. They call it the hour of the wolf, witching hour.
Yep.
It's where Dr. Wayne Dyer, he would wake up and start to write his books at that time. It's something within the brain. It's very open between the two realms.
Yes, that's when they can get in. You know why? Because we finally shut our brain down.
Yeah.
So our brain is shut down. They're able to get in.
In those deeper brainwave
Perfect
states.
time. Yes. So he would always come just as I was about to fall asleep. And I would get a tingle from my elbow to my wrist. It would just go right up. And that was his calling card. I'm here. And I don't talk about this all that much. It doesn't come up on podcasts. So it's supposed to be today, I guess. And what would happen was my hands that are small and soft would now become large and rough. My husband was an engineer. He worked with his hands all his life. But my hands became his hands. And he began to use my hands. And he would wipe my tears, hold my cheeks. Sometimes and I had no control over this. I'd get the tingle and my fingers would start to pop, like open up. Even if they were trapped under a cover, it's amazing. I used to be stubborn too, and I'd let him stay under that cover and see what he could do. And it would keep going like this until my hand came out. I had no control. And so my hands would come up and sometimes they would go around him as if I was hugging him. And sometimes his hand and my hand would go on my heart and sometimes on my lips, but it would be like a pressure, a replacement of a kiss. So that's how it was. And it was always beautiful. I haven't seen him this was the third Valentine's Day that he didn't show up. So
Mm.
he got a talking to from me. But it's okay. You know, I know he's there. He's around me all the time. And I yell at him. I send him on journeys. I said, go help this kid. Go help that kid. Make sure you're doing this for your grandchildren. And, you know, make sure they're safe. And I'm always giving him directions like I did in life, you know.
Wow.
So he laughs. He still laughs at me. But it's an amazing, amazing feeling. Now, you know, you must know, I'm sure you do. You've been around for a long time with me already, and we're on different Facebook. I don't get on Facebook much or Instagram, but on Instagram during COVID, I put up pictures of angel wings. Did you see that?
Yeah,
You
countless times. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that
Okay.
was. But for my viewers are gonna love this one. I know.
Yeah, I know. It's out in public. I mean, it
Yes.
is because of some people I work with in Chicago, broadcast journalist. She loves to
Jennifer Weigel. Yeah, she's
yes,
been on my
Jennifer.
channel. Yeah,
She
good friend.
loves to talk about it,
Right.
and so she brings it up. And I do workshops out there in Wisconsin with her for the last 6 years, and people know about it. They're not supposed to watch because their eyes are supposed to be closed when I'm healing, but
It's
they
like
peek.
it's like the eclipse or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, they peek,
Yeah.
and you know, and they see things that again, I didn't know they were happening. I didn't know I had these shadows behind me. So to back it up and explain how it started, I when I sold my home after my husband died, I had nowhere to teach my students. So I started renting hotel space.
Yes.
And every week I would go. Well, not every week, I apologize. I was not going to teach every week. I taught 3 times a month. Um, so I would go to the hotel and I would be in a different room every time. My name was on a door. I didn't know where I was going to be. There were 4 rooms, and wherever it was, I saw my name. I go in, the students were already there. And so I would meditate them, and I'd be sitting behind a table as a rule, and I turn on my music, and we would go into a meditation. And on this particular day, and again, remember, everybody's eyes are closed. They don't see that when I'm doing a meditation that my head goes back and my arms go way, 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 way out. And that started in the very beginning. First, it was just the head, but 25 years ago, my arms were opening wide. And again, most people didn't witness it. So who knew? Now, I'm talking to the class. There's 20 minutes left. There are new people in the class. There always are. And I was making an announcement about this picture of the Sacred Heart of Jesus that's in Lindenhurst. And it's a phenomenon. And when you go here, you see your loved ones show up that have passed in the picture. And that's how it started, because this couple's little boy had passed and he showed up in the picture. The picture was delivered to their doorstep and showed up in the picture. And she's been showing it for like 50 years. She's well in her 80s now. Her husband's passed. So anyway, I'm giving them the date. You have to call on a certain date, and she books up for the whole year. And that's it. So they said, well, what is it? And I'm explaining. I said, Jesus's face moves, it changes, it rapidly changes, kind of like the Michael Jackson video. And then you could feel his heartbeat. You're not allowed to touch the picture, but you could feel it. You feel the energy. You see your loved ones, as I said, in the picture all around, and religious figures as well as even celebrities
Hmm.
are in there. It's crazy.
Wow.
I used to bring people there. You could only do a group of 5 at a time, and I think she might have lowered it to 4. But I told them the information, and they want to know, well, what is this face changing stuff? And I said, well, when I went to Holly years ago, we would practice it once in a while, but it was a very small class. I can't do that with 30 and 40 people. You know, it's just got to be a few people at a time. So I said, oh, can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? And I said, well, all right, I'll be the subject. We only have 15 minutes. So I'll be the subject, and you guys all gather together. And I think there were 32 people that night. And I said, gather in so you can see me, and everybody focus on my forehead and just soften your eyes. And you might see my aura. You might see the face changes. So just call them out. That's it. So they did. And it was exactly as I expected. And yes, I had a Fu Manchu, or I was bald, I was a man, I was a woman, I was older, I was younger, all these different things they were calling out, which is what I expected. I believe that those faces are past lifetimes. That's what I believe. I can't back it up. That's what I believe. Now, all of a sudden, my fingers start to pull. Now, mind you, I'm sitting like this, just minding my business, and now my fingers start to pull. I don't want them to open. So I'm fighting it. I'm trying to keep my hands tight because I know then my arm's going to open. I'm going to have to explain. All right. So then finally, boom, head's back, hits the wall. I said, all right, I got to talk. So I can't open my eyes because once it starts, I'm in. It's like a trance state, but I'm very aware of what's going on outside of me. So I said to the students, I said, don't mind me, pay no attention, just keep doing what you're doing. This happens when I'm in a deep meditative state and I have no control. So just keep going. And now everybody's quiet. It's not a word, not a word, not a word. And all of a sudden I start hearing, oh my God, and I'm going to say a bad word, holy shit. And it's going all throughout the room. And I'm like, what's the matter? What's wrong? And they told me that these angel wings came out from behind me and covered the entire space of the wall with full feathers dropped to the floor. Now that, I do not have a picture of that because nobody was prepared. My sister was there and she said, Patricia, I wanted to go get my phone, but I was afraid I was going to miss something.
Is this Carol? Carol?
No, my sister Eileen.
Oh, I see.
And the Carol was another one that would take the videos for me, but this particular one was Eileen. Now, after they explained what happened and it had finally stopped, when it stops, when this energy that works through me stops, they snap my arms together like rubber bands. It's just like a snap, and they go over my shoulders, even further than my hands can actually stretch. So when it ended, they explained what happened. There were people in tears. People saw so many other things because they were all intuitive people in front of me. And so I decided to see what this was all about. Would this happen again? So each class thereafter, and this was prior to COVID, I began to stand up instead of sit behind a table. I'd stand against the wall to give me somewhere for my head to go. And I would start my meditation, and it just got bigger and bigger and more and more and more. There are hundreds of pictures, hundreds of them, all different. I put the few up on Instagram, and I'll pull them up now. I just put the few up, and I just saw Jen Weigel and the girl I just did the event with, the Hilton, on my phone. All right, so the first one I put up, and I did it with one of the sets of angel wings. And I did that one, and I put it up. There's something else there too. That darker shadow on one side is always with me. In all the pictures, you can find it, but it's not part of the angel part. So it was COVID. I was home. I was stuck in the house. I said, let me try, put one up at a time and see how people accept this. Now, this is months later when they started to come through the floor. So they would come from below and come up and move. And my students are watching this whole thing. And if you look a little closer, you'll see I have a couple of extra arms.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So then the next one I put up was much bigger. Now, these would come up and attach to me. And if you look in like the baseboard, you'd see the points down there. And the points would be the bottom of the wings when they would attach to me. But these were huge. And you could see they're even further out in the picture. And then the final one, which I know you've seen, and this usually makes people jump a little bit. This is only shadows on one side. Now, this is a 19-second video. And you see the shadows as
Only
my
on one
arms
side.
adjust, they begin to move up. Now, when it touches my hand, watch the other side.
Wow, and your hand is grabbed. Wow,
Yes,
both
so
hands are held.
if we look at it again, imagine Jesus standing behind me in a robe. And that's exactly what everyone saw. The hand, I didn't know it was a hand until the other one came out, right out of the robe, the shoulder, the sleeve,
Wow.
like that.
Wow.
And many people, again, the intuitive ones saw it. And again, this is just minuscule compared to some of the other stuff. I have animals, prehistoric animals that come out one side. I have this prehistoric bird, and I have this giant camel that looks like a stegosaurus to me. Oh, actually, I looked at it the other day when it was forming. I looked at one of the old videos, and it looked like a rhinoceros. So
Wow.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know what it's all about. I can tell you what I think. I did this for a year and a half. And no one was allowed to take pictures except my sister and one student. And I said, I don't want this all over the place. I don't want people looking at me like I have two heads or knocking on my door and saying, who are you and what is this? I didn't know what it was, and I wanted to wait. So I would ask my students, all right, you're all very intuitive. I want you to write something on it. I want you to tap in and see what you come up with. They also sent me emails after that first one that I didn't get a picture of, because that was all feathers. They sent me pictures of Isis, because they were telling me my hair was turning black, that my hair would come down, it would be curved, that I had fake feathers attached to my arms. They saw eagles coming out of my chest. They saw an American Indian woman. They saw so many things. Shiva. I had the red stone in my head, and 7 arms. They saw so much. So what I took from all of that, based on what they were telling me and what I was feeling, and just trying to put it together as an intuitive, I feel like multiple deities merged with my energy. And for whatever reason, and just made this healing stronger. And I've said it, and I'll say it again, it is not me. I'm just the vehicle that it channels through. And so when all of these things started to happen, eventually it got to the point where I go deeper and deeper into this kind of a trance state, and my mouth would almost get stuck together, like I'd come out of it. And I was trying to get my bearings. I couldn't fully see straight, but then COVID came. So that was the end of that. And listen, if it happened to this day, I wouldn't be able to tell you, because I'm not usually standing against a blank wall with a room full of people. But I am going to take it just a hair. I keep dropping my phone. I apologize. I have it on a stand.
As long as it's not coffee, you're good. Yeah.
No, not coffee. I'm not coffee. I haven't even had that yet
No,
today.
no. Yeah.
I'm a tea girl, but
Tea or coffee.
I didn't get to that yet either. All right, so I'm going to show you some of the bizarre photos. Now, see the feathers between my legs?
My God.
Okay.
Wow.
And now I have kind of like an ET arm. I have lots more going on. That's just a side profile. And they tend to, all of them fold into a big cape. This one, if you can see them, has lots of arms and a wing.
Wow,
And
I
that
see
shadow
it.
on the side and the feathers, but I'll show you a prehistoric animal, and then we'll get off this. I could stay on this all day. There's so
I
many.
love hearing it. It's
I didn't actually show you my Incredible Hulk arms.
wow.
That's how it started. And they were always going the other way. You can't make this stuff up.
Wow.
Sometimes it looks like this one shows little wings coming out.
Wow.
And the other shadows are still on the wall. You see that the big arm sticking out?
Wow. 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 Wow.
So and this one looks like I have feet coming out of my hips.
Wow. Like a frog or something. Yeah. But
This
yeah.
was in the very beginning because I was still behind the table.
Hmm.
You know, when I moved the table, it became different. But all right, so I want to show you the prehistorics and then I know you could talk about it all day. I could talk about it all day, but we don't want to talk about this all day. But
It's
they are
amazing.
fascinating. I mean, I look at them and I'm fascinated. Every time I see them, I'm fascinated. Like I'll look at something like that. Okay, explain.
Hmm.
Nobody can explain it. I had an electrician look at it and a couple of professional photographers. They're starting to look like animals. You see that?
Hmm.
A couple of
Man.
professional photographers, and they all said it can't happen.
Wow.
Listen, I know the outfit I was in. Some of them are really, really big. Let's see. Well, look at this one.
Wow. Wow. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It went on for so long, and they're really like
Hmm.
wide there
Wow.
and big. I don't know if they say they see dragons, they see all kinds of things, but I gotta find that outfit I was wearing with the wing. All right, here we go. Here's my prehistoric bird.
Oh my goodness gracious. Wow.
Now it's only on one side. You see that
Yeah.
robe and
Yeah.
everything is still on the other side, but shadows of my arms are extra.
Wow.
And this one's the camel looking guy, or
Oh
the
my God.
rhinoceros, or the stegosaurus. I don't know what he is. Uh,
Wow.
but, and that was the day that these wings came
Hmm.
out. So I always know by what I was wearing. And then they kind of, before they attached to me, they almost looked like bat wings.
Hmm.
And, oh, these are interesting. Oops, see, that's a video, but that one is great. Uh, like this.
Wow.
And they're on both sides, but darker on one and lighter on the other.
Have you ever like worked with a student to try to
No,
get themselves in it's not something you could teach. I guess it's just like your thing. You can't pass that over in a way or
I don't know. You know, shadows are on walls for a lot of things. And what the electrician said, he was in my home and I had a big plant and his wife was with him. She was my client and I didn't know he was an electrician. And so I was explaining what had happened because she had come to the class and was a little shocked. And so I had the plant and he's explaining the leaves pattern because they look bigger than they actually do in person. And, you know, he's explaining it to me and then he's looking at my stuff. He said, it's not possible.
wow.
So I don't know, you know, I really don't know. I don't know. Listen,
It's
you can't
remarkable.
explain it.
Yeah.
It's everyone is different than the other.
Mm.
And it went on for all that time
Wow.
until the hotel shut down. Now, that's why I told you in the beginning that I was in a different room.
Mm.
Probably wondered why I said that, but that's why, because I never knew where I was going to be. I wanted to make sure that there was no way somebody could debunk this
Right. You want to
because
remove
I
all
knew it
the
was real, but I
right.
couldn't explain it. But every time it was different. And sometimes I lit up, like I put them on YouTube for people to see the actual videos, 5 of them.
Mm.
One of them happened when my siblings were not present. And one of my students, Johnny, decided he was going to video. I'm glad he did. He got in trouble for it. I'm glad he did because that was the only time this ever happened. Now, sometimes it would make me go up on my toes during this trance and I would get leg cramps.
Wow.
Twice I had like almost like seizures and they were banging me against the wall very rapidly. And just 2 times.
Mm.
Never happened again. I don't know why. So this particular time, when my arms went out, and of course you can't see my arms all the way out, but they started to go in circles, small circles. And then they went into large circles, big circles. Well, he's videoing this and the shadows are moving at a different speed.
Mm.
So my hands are doing one thing and the shadows were moving at a completely different speed, almost as if somebody put slow-mo on the camera.
Hmm.
And they're carrying on because it was class and he's doing it. They're all standing there, all looking, they're going, oh my God, look at her arms. They look like the incredible, and all this kind of stuff. So I did put that up because it was different. And
Yeah. I'm wondering,
there's,
have you seen like practical changes in people's trajectory or their lives from experiencing these photos? Like,
yes,
have you like
yes,
received any emails? And if
many.
so, like, what are some of the common themes that you've seen?
Well, when
Uh,
I'm doing it, just so you know what's going on in my head when it's
mhm,
happening, I'm sending healing.
mm,
When my hands are like that and they're open, their energy is coming out of my hands like you wouldn't believe. So the room has already been filled with light. I ask for it to be filled with angelic light from corner to corner, ceiling to floor, side to side. And I send out healing wherever it needs to be, which I do often. I did it in the Hilton, I do it in Chicago, I do it anytime I'm in a large group in a theater, they want me to do this. So I do what I'll call a group healing. Instead of a group reading, I'm doing a group healing. And this energy is affecting them. Some of them can't even see me. Like there's so much cloud in the room when it's finished. It's hard to even see the people, them see me. It's all spirit energy. I'm going to say angelic, but then people have spontaneous healing.
mm,
So one man wrote to me that he was really having a lot of pain in his hand and he wasn't able, he was having a hard time driving from, I think he came from the Bronx to Long Island, and he had a really rough time because it hurt it at work. And when he got in the car, it was gone. Other people talked about, woman wrote to me the other day, and I did it on Jen Weigel's uh,
platform.
podcast that
Yeah.
yeah, the social club.
Hmm.
I did it on the social club, and she said I had excruciating pain in my hip for I couldn't tell you how long. I'd been to this doctor, that, and she said right after the thing, it was gone.
Wow.
So this is what I expect. I ask people to think about, since there's so many people in a room, and there might be 150. So I'll say, think about where you want the energy to go, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. Think about where you want the energy to go. Set the intention, because I'm just going to walk through the room and my arms are out and the energy, like when I do this, as soon as I open my hands, they start to buzz.
Mm,
So I have to keep them down most of the time. I sit with my arms folded with my hands on them like this all the time, and or like this. But I don't expose them if I can help it. And so it's like it just projects. And when I'm thinking in this state, I'm not just doing the room, I'm doing the children, I'm doing the ill, I'm doing the elderly, I'm doing the homeless, I'm doing the animals, I'm doing the planet, the water. I mean, I am sending energy everywhere,
mm,
everywhere until it stops. And when I told you how it stops, it slams me like this. So it doesn't stop until it stops. I have no idea how long it's going to take. Again, the one video is 11 minutes, and I'd say maybe some of them could be a little bit longer for the amount of time that I stand there. But, and that's again why it's so very uncomfortable, because my arms are back, they're out, but they're back. My chest is out. Years ago, it happened at somebody's labyrinth who used to set up a labyrinth in their
mm,
big backyard in Melville. And they would publicize it. People would come to this beautiful labyrinth of
mm,
lights and they would kind of meditate through the circle. Well, it got to a point where she would only invite me. She had it on Friday and Saturday nights. My class was only invited on Friday night. No one was else was allowed there because I would fall down.
mm,
This stuff would happen to me, and I'd end up with my arms out on a chair with my head back. I couldn't move. There's orbs all around me. I'm laying on her lights. She didn't like me laying on her lights. I
mm,
couldn't help it. I would just fall to the ground, and it was beautiful. I felt amazing. I felt like I was on some other planet. It was a beautiful feeling.
Mm.
But, one time they made me get up and they didn't like me on the ground, and they had Reiki people trying to work on me, and my legs were twisted. I didn't feel a thing. I felt great. And finally they get me up, but it was too soon. Whoever works with me wasn't done. And they brought me to a chair and went to get some water. And my arms started to conduct like I was conducting an orchestra. My teeth started to chatter. It wasn't finished. When it's finished, it's finished. And
It's a very thorough circumstance.
yeah, I don't know whether they're tuning me up. I don't know if they're using that time for me to focus on healing. I really don't have the full answers to this. And I challenge anybody to give me one, because I don't. And I came up with mine, and then I didn't feel so uncomfortable about it. And I let people talk about it. And I show the pictures, just like I did with you. And I don't worry about it. If it's going to happen, if there's a reason for it, a big reason for it, it's going to take place. And it may not be this minute. It may be next year. It may be the year. I don't know. I don't see the purpose of it unless there's a bigger reason.
It's not like a show or whatever, or it's there
Yeah.
for tangible, intention. It's not like a circus or whatever,
No, and that's what I don't want it to be, but I feel like the component behind it is faith. I feel that people have to see something that they cannot explain, and they can't find a way around it, and that it's to bring people back to faith. Because look, the world's a mess. It's a
a lot,
mess.
lot going on right now.
Yeah, and that's why I feel when the timing comes, if the timing comes, it'll be the right timing. I can't worry about it or concern myself with it. I got over that. My ego kept it this way for a while. Like I really did not want people poking at me. And, but now I don't really care. It's been out, and even the Newsday had gotten in touch, and
Wow.
the local, paper here, and they do this Sunday supplement. People on Long Island or they don't put your name, they don't put your email, they don't put anything down. They came to the house, they took pictures, they ended up doing 2 segments, and they put some stuff up. They said some things, and then if people get in touch with them, I get to
They'll-
tell some of
they'll
my
provide it.
story, then
Yeah.
they'll provide it, yeah. But they do it all the time. There's beautiful people on it. I never even knew it existed. I'm not into social media. I don't have a lot of time for it. I really don't. And I miss a lot of people that way, because people try to contact me that way. And I don't, maybe I don't look at it for 3 weeks. And, I felt really bad many, many, many years ago. There's also something on Facebook in the message part
Mhm.
that says other, which I never saw. There's another whole thing. I don't know why people come in on this. Like people were dying. They were trying to make appointments with me. They were trying to get in touch with me, and I didn't see them for a year.
Oh, when you're not connected with them, I see. Yeah, on
Yeah,
Facebook,
but
and they'll. Yeah.
there's two
Yes, on Messenger.
sections,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I didn't know it. One day I just looked at it and said, "What the heck is this?" Other. I hit other, and
Yeah.
I felt horrible. It was like a year and a half worth of
Oh,
messages,
wow.
and I had no control over it, and it's nothing.
They should alert us on any mess, because that doesn't get notified. But yeah, that must have been hard to see and go through
It was
those
very difficult.
messages.
And I cut my waiting time down. People always think I have this tremendous waiting list. I don't, because a long time ago, um, there was a 6-month waiting list at that point, and a woman got in touch with us with 4th stage ovarian cancer, and she needed help then. And I was like packed like a sardine. So I told my assistants, we can't do this anymore. We need to work it very differently. And certain cases are going to come first. They get to read, my girls read the emails and they see them before they get to me. I see them too. I see them in the morning, I see them at night, but only when I'm
But
working late.
kind of like a hospital triage and
Yeah,
stuff like
so
that.
they do, and they star things that are for me to answer, and this, I don't even want to tell you how many unopened things they are. I mean, we get to look at them, but we can't get to everybody. There's just too many. And I apologize to the world for that, but I am only one person. And so I do send healing regardless to all because I can't get to everybody. I also have a little deal with my guides and my angels that I travel at night. And how do I know that? Because people started writing to me and telling me, you were in my room, you were doing a healing, you were in my dream. I get them all the time. So I said to my guides, as long as I get 7 hours sleep, you can take me wherever I need to go. Okay, so it's a deal,
Right,
and
right, right.
I send it out that way. I tell people sometimes, just think of me. If I've done a healing on you, just think of me when something is going on or you're about to have surgery or you're in pain, and it will come. It will.
Have you ever had that simultaneous awareness that that person was dreaming of you during the healing and you felt that person too, or that was just
No,
that would
but
have been yeah.
I have, since I became a healer,
Mm,
everything I dream about to do with me, I'm in the middle of healing somebody.
mm,
So I do have the dream. I never know who. I just know that I'm healing. It's the only way I know myself anymore, but it has transferred right away, actually, into my dreams. So, and I dream lucidly every night. You don't even want to know the dreams I dream. But I always expect to sleep 7 hours, and I don't use an alarm clock. I wake up always before the alarm.
mm,
So, before the time that I'm supposed to get up, I wake up.
wow.
And if I have something important to write down or to do the next day, and I usually don't go to bed till 1:30. Last night I went to bed at 2:30,
Hmm.
and I'm still up early. I shortened my time this morning, but that's because I took a 2-hour nap after work yesterday. And then once I do that, forget it. I'm up a lot later
Right,
than I
right, right.
planned, but it kind of balances out. I still got 5 hours and I got 2-hour naps. So I got my 7 hours. They were just a little broken.
Yeah, unconventional 7 hours. How
Yeah.
do you I mean, it's interesting. I know early in the interview and throughout our conversation, there seems to be a bit of a dichotomy, at least from an external perspective, where there's this fine dance of I'm an ordinary person, but on the outside, we're connecting to extraordinary circumstances, which is a trajectory that we see from, I don't know, people like Edgar Casey, who is just a regular church-going guy, and he just became this
Mhm.
trans channeling, extraordinaire. But for the average person tuning in, how do they find the extraordinary, like yourself, if they may see themselves as an ordinary person? I mean, I know certainly for you, you saw yourself at a certain time as this PTA mom, you had kids, you're part of the community, and people would see you like, oh, okay, she's, one, but then all of a sudden you're seeing there's this whole other
Yeah,
gear.
overnight.
So it's like twofold. Like, how do you obviously keep yourself grounded as you are, but also how does the average person open themselves up to this extraordinary component while also seeing themselves as ordinary?
Well, I'm going to start off by saying everyone has intuition. There's no one on this planet without it, good, bad, or ugly. They all have intuition.
Right.
It's whether or not they choose to open that gift in this lifetime. It is a gift.
Mm,
And meditation is definitely a key to opening it up. It's how it happened to me. And I used to meditate my students forever and ever and ever in the classes. And I watched them, including Theresa Caputo, I watched them all open up while they were meditating. The meditation would be, they'd go really deep and then we'd talk about the meditation. And next thing you know, they were having spirit come through or their hands were heating up and they were beginning to become healers. So I would say for the normal I mean, look, you and I are both normal, regular people, but look at what's
right.
happened.
Mhm.
And I ground myself with my family. That is my grounding. And
Yeah.
I have parties, I have to be at concerts, I have to be at soccer games. I mean, I'm like,
It's a massive family, or as you say in
yeah,
the Jewish language, mishpacha. But yeah,
yeah, well, it's pretty much of that.
it's a
And
big mishpacha. Yeah.
so I ground myself that way. I tell people you have to stay in balance. If you start opening up, you cannot get lost in it, because if you get lost in it, you just took yourself out of balance, and then you're not grounded anymore. And I work that out with my students a lot. I tell them, you know, you got to keep your ego at the curb. You've got to remember that you're just the vehicle. You're always the vehicle. It is not even when people read, it doesn't come from them, it comes through them.
Mm.
Everything comes through us. So trying to keep yourself in balance. And in early days of teaching, I taught balance. I taught people how to love and honor themselves as well as others, to forgive themselves as well as others, to not judge others in any capacity, to have integrity, to have compassion, kindness, um, you know, things like that. I just tried to teach them, these are the important tools. Do this, and this will keep you in balance as you go forward with that extraordinary life. So again, reading books that feed your soul, those Wayne Dyer books and Brian Weiss books and your books, my books, all read books that feed your soul. Do meditation. Don't just pick any old meditation online without listening to it first before you actually do it, because anyone today can put anything up, and you want to make sure you know, if they're not recommended, you want to make sure you know who you're listening to or what you're listening to.
Well, I used to run groups 3 times a week in a clinic, meditation groups, and almost every group I would use your meditations on
Ah,
YouTube. I love them. I went through all of them countlessly, and just loved every one of them. And yeah, I agree with that. There has to be congruency with the person and their words, where they're coming from, what they're saying, and people who participate. But your guided meditations are some of the most highly recommended videos that I've had throughout my professional tenure. Yeah.
I know that, of course, you know, I wrote them all, and the gentleman that I went to produce them, had to sit in a sound room, you know, just like anybody else. The ones that are on iTunes, they're on YouTube too. Anybody can
YouTube
find
as well. Yeah, that's where
them.
I was getting
Yeah,
mine from. Yeah.
so that, and they're the same. They're there, but there's an album of the five big ones on iTunes for like 9.99 or something
Yeah.
like that. I have no idea. I don't look at it, but um, I use the universal white light and protection before every class,
Mm,
as many years as I'm doing it. And that one was not done by the young man who channels angelic music.
mm,
I did the words, gave him the words, he put the music, I approved. The first one, my nephew actually did up in his bedroom, and he was very good with music. And I sat there, and he had high density microphones and stuff, and he channeled the music. And what I liked, if I wanted more flutes, or if I wanted a little bit of this or that, and I'd say, give me a little more of this, give me a little. So we kind of produced that one together, and that is the most popular one, actually. It's the one used the most. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I love them all.
Well, there are good people out there that do meditations. There are some beautiful ones. I don't have a lot of time to meditate. My meditation now is in the backyard, to the leaves, the birds, and the sound of the pool, the filter. That's what I meditate to. And I like that because I can get lost in that.
Right, right.
I like nature. I love nature. And now I have, where I live, it's kind of like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. If I'm not watching bunnies, I watched them do the bunny hop the other day. I videoed them. They were two, I guess, siblings, and they were facing off, and they would run at each other, and one would jump over the other, and then they would run, and it was the funniest thing. But I have chipmunks and I have the bunnies. I have a hedgehog that shows up every once in a while and scares everybody because it stands up and it looks, birds. It's like a freeway. So I get to have the nature right outside my windows.
Right.
I don't have to go very far. So if I can't get outside, I can look out the window and it works.
You don't have to go to the Himalayan mountains to find awareness.
As
It's
much as
in your
I would love
backyard. Yeah.
to, I would love to. I would love to go to these places.
Right.
I don't get to do anything. I mean, I'm going on a trip to Ireland, a
I
healing
saw
journey,
that. Yeah.
and that's in September.
That's with Jen too, right? Yeah.
That's with Jen as well. Yeah, we had to cancel it twice. My sister, I had a lot of losses this year,
Yeah.
and my sister passed, and I knew she was getting close to it. And I said, Jen, this is not, this trip is not meant to be. It's not meant to be, because I know where I have to be, and I can't take that chance. And it's kind of an elite thing. They only fit so many people. It's a bus that's taking us all over the place. And I know there's a few seats. We didn't advertise because I think the travel company said 24, but I think there's enough room for 30. So
Wow.
people that call in still at this point could probably get on. It's from September 21st to September 28th. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. Going to get good sneakers just in case I got to move around a lot at my, fortunately, I'm in good shape.
I don't mean to advertise. I've tried almost and ASICs to me have been the most supportive. I consult with a lot of athletes, and ASICs get good reviews. But anyway, I'm not a paid advertisement, but I hope that
That's okay.
that trip is great. But before we
Thank
go,
you.
Pat, certainly working in the mental health field, I recommend your book, The Gifts, Beneath Your Anxiety, which is a groundbreaking concept in itself. Because when most people hear the word anxiety, it's immediately pathologized, and they go through their own experience with it. So could you just briefly kind of, and I know it's hard, it's a beautiful book, but could you summarize the concepts behind the book, and also the concepts that there are gifts behind a mental health pathology that we may
Yes.
have? And I love that you went in that direction,
Yeah, it
for the book.
really, because I proved it. I actually wrote a theory on it that somebody
Mhm.
was going to submit to Johns Hopkins, but
Wow.
it does. I discovered so long ago that hormones and spirituality are connected. So when children go into puberty, uh, and these days it's earlier than it was when I first started. It was like 11, 12, 13. Now it's 8, 9, and 10 because of all the fast foods, the chemicals in the fast foods and stuff that they
Processed
eat.
foods and all
It's
that.
the
Yeah.
hormones, and it has kind of exacerbated it or accelerated it. And so if a child is already an anxious child and then they hit puberty, spirituality rises, and it's like there's a push, and these kids are all empaths. You're an empath, I'm an empath. Listen, if you're not a psychopath, a sociopath, or a narcissist, you are an empath, okay? And a narcissist is an empath too, but they're empathic to themselves. That's it. We take on other people's feelings and emotions, and we don't know it. We think it's us. You're an empath. You're absorbing like a dirty sponge into your solar plexus, like a big dirty sponge, and you're taking these on from the time you open your eyes as an infant. So what I found was when the solar plexus is covered, all right, and for me, it was folding my arms. I was always comfortable with my arms folded. And many people do that, but in today's world, they think that's, bad body language or
Right,
standoffish.
right, right, right.
However, it blocks the toxins that are coming in and the emotions that are coming in from other places. So when I told you I built my protection, I built it so that I'm wearing a shiny vest of armor that covers my heart, my lungs, my solar plexus, and my abdomen. And, it's a 3-part, but that's the piece that stops it. I've even used the WWE belt on my own granddaughter when she was 8.5, and I stopped her anxiety right then and there
Wow.
in its tracks. And then she'd have to do it every day. You have to re-put it on, if that's even proper English, but You have to put it back on. And so what happens with the gifts is they really are gifted, and the more anxiety they have, the more powerful the gift is, but they don't know it. And so I get everybody here. And just in case you don't know, the name of my book was supposed to be something else. It was You're Not Sick, You're Psychic. Because I kept saying it to people. They were coming into my space and they were, am I crazy? Is there something wrong with me? This is what I feel. I'm feeling this. I hear this. I see that. The things that go bump in the night and all this kind of stuff. I said, you're not sick. You're psychic. And then I explain and go into teaching and everything. The publishing company didn't think psychic was a good word. And I said, for marketing purposes, you're absolutely right. I'll change the title. I really wanted to focus on the anxiety. That was the piece I wanted to hit, so that people understand that there's much more, that they're not crazy. And they also, empaths tend to get digestive issues, autoimmune diseases, just like I did, allergies, high sensitivities to things like meds, foods, lights, sound, smells. For me, it was, I have smells, lights, and not food, because I told God, don't mess with my food. Don't mess with my food. I love food. But the meds, the lighting, and the smells and I would go into anaphylaxis from smells. It was bad.
Wow.
So I don't have any of that anymore. All of it went away, but I know why. I know why. So once the protection began, everything subsided. So I know that it can be fixed. It's just a matter of understanding and connecting the dots between your spiritual self and the empathic nature and your physical being. Now, listen, are there cases of people that have anxiety for, well, I can't say too many, for different reasons, because even people that come to me that are fear-based and they're afraid of everything, they turn out to be mediums or healers. They don't know it. Nobody knows it. Theresa didn't know it. People don't know it when they walk in my door, for the most part. Now people are coming to me because they know my history and the people that I've helped. So they come for that purpose, but that's not, I'm a healer. I'm not here just to do that, but that is a big part of my practice now, is opening people up to their gifts. And we all have them.
It must be amazing for you. I'm sure you put your head down, you're always working, but have you ever like taken a moment to just reflect on a particular client or clients who have come into your home one way
Ugh,
and you see them now? It
I
must be a
get
beautiful thing
crazy
to
stories, and
yeah,
some people walked into my house. One girl walked in and she hadn't even gotten through the door jamb into my classroom at that time. And I knew she was a healer. And she had no idea. She was sick, 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 sick. She had fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, 16 years. She didn't have children. She couldn't work. She couldn't drive. She literally crawled once in a while. She wrote a testimonial on my website. I didn't put her in my book because that was for a second book. That was more of a healing thing. But then she became the healer. She became gifted in so many ways. And another girl came to me with something called autonomic dysfunction, and she would drop, her heart rate would shoot, and she would drop to the floor, it would go way up and then slam her to the floor. And she lived in a different state, and she came to me, and in an hour it was gone. The other one was like an hour after she left me. She said something ran through her and it was all gone. And next thing you know, she was working 3 jobs. And, I mean, the energy, everything changed. Somebody couldn't move. All of a sudden, she had 3 jobs. She couldn't stop moving. I'm going to clean the house. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the other one, she's a healer, a medium, a teacher. She does past lives Akashic records through spirit rather than the way that you or I would do it.
Right.
And yes, the answer is yes. I'm always amazed at the people that I meet daily, including yourself when we met. We never physically met, which is crazy. We don't live that far apart.
We're gonna have to do that ASAP.
Yeah.
When you can.
It's crazy because
It's
I
overdue.
rarely step out of the house because people ask me for coffee. They ask me for dinner. They're asking me all the time. I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
But today is a day off. So that's why we're doing this. I do have another client from Germany I have to do. That was an emergency this morning when I woke up. So I'm going to take care of that I'm getting close. Okay,
Yeah.
11:30. 11:30.
Okay.
I'm going to take care of her. But look, this has been a pleasure. I'm so glad that we got to do it. And I'm sure people still listen to my interview with you because I have it archived and it goes out on my homework.
Wow. Yeah.
All of the stuff, they go out on my homework to every client in every country that I work in has the ability to tap in and look at all these things and all the books that I put up. So more people get book sales, but I only put books up that I feel are going to help people.
Right.
So
Well, I'm not trying to drive more traffic to you because I know you're very busy, but for
yeah, and
people
I'm
who,
sweating.
yeah, well, that too, but for people who want to, learn more about your books or, any of your upcoming classes, patlongo.net is the best place you would say to start to
Well, I would
find more
actually,
information about you.
PatLongo.net is the best place to look to see more about me. I don't put classes up because I have to meet people before I put them in my class. I have to feel the energy. I have to know they're compatible with the group.
Right.
Because I went to a class when I was younger. I stopped in, I went to this one and anybody was invited and that's wonderful, but they weren't vetted and some people are really not all that stable. So I have to be very careful who I put together in a room because they're going to be giving messages and practicing with each other. And I want to make sure that they're viable before I jump. But my email, patlongo1111@gmail.com is probably the best way. And I have a phone number on my website. That's my landline that my assistant picks up. So
All right.
they find me. Again, Facebook and Instagram is not always the best way to get me because I'm lucky if I get on it weekly or monthly.
Gmail, yeah.
Too busy looking at all the hundreds that come through like this. And every day I look at them like,
Yeah.
so
Well,
we'll see.
Pat Longo, thank you so much for your generous time. I'll let you get to that client. You're an international sensation, but you have most importantly been able to humbly help out so many who have come in your path, and so many lives have been transformed by just tuning in and allowing spirit to work through you. So
We're going to
thank you.
spread this out there like a good virus.
That's it.
That's the way it's gotta go. That's what I did with my book. Spread it like a good, healthy virus. And I put healing in every word in that book, literally physically put healing in the book. And,
It's like imagine if the good could spread as equally as the bad,
exactly.
imagine that.
And I think it is. I
Yeah.
really, I think it's starting to take over. The light workers, the army of light workers that we're all raising are going to take over all the darkness.
All
Okay,
right. Well,
I'm going.
thank you. God bless.
Well, that was a wonderful conversation with Pat. We really were able to delve into a lot of her own incredible stories, her transformation, and a lot of secrets and gifts behind healing and how to find that and discover that on your own. So I hope you enjoyed our interview as much as we did. We thank you for taking your time in and tuning into the Wisdom Jacob's Ladder. We'll see you here next week for my next guest coming up on the Wisdom Jacob's Ladder podcast. Thank you all. Have a great day.